Half a day. The Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Tuesday, July 19, 2022, and the time now is 2 o'clock. Notice of this budget hearing were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on July 7th, followed by July 11th. The committee will now hear Bill 276-36 COR, Committee on Rules, by the request of the I Maga'hågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act making appropriations for the operation of the executive branch of the Governor of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30, 2023, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions relative to the Guam Ancestral Land Commission. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that have joined me this afternoon, Senator Sabina Perez. The oversight chair for the Ancestral has communicated with us that she won't be able to make it. Other than that, those testifying relative to the Guam Ancestral Land Commission are invited to the panel. We have the Director, John Birch, and his staff, Catherine Bloss. The general rules of this budget hearing shall be as follows. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopy. Testimony may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes, but you'd have more than 5 minutes, Mr. Birch. Those testifying will be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you're done, please remain in the room for questions or for additional testimonies may be desired by members of the committee. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda, which is the budget of the Guam Ancestral Land Commission. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of the general rule will result in removal from the budget hearing. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from oral testimony and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on, that you speak into the microphone. Other questions may be submitted to the committee for submission to the agency or department for response. Please state your name and your title for the record. At this time, I ask the panel members to rise so that the Sergeant at Arms will swear you in for your testimony.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, you will affirm that any and all information provided today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chair, under oath, you may proceed.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. We'll now begin to discuss Bill 276-36 CR in relations to the Guam Ancestral Land Commission. Mr. Birch, you may now begin with any testimony you may have for your budget, sir.
Thank you. Hafiday, Senator San Agustin and Senator Perez. My name is John Birch. I'm the Executive Director of the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. And thank you for this opportunity to testify today on Bill number 27636, an act making appropriations for the operations of the executive branch of the Government of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30, 2023. I'm here today to testify on behalf of the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. The Guam Ancestral Lands Commission's mission is to facilitate the return of excess U.S. federal and Government of Guam lands, pursue and advocate for the return of these excess lands to the original landowners, and to maintain a land bank trust for those dispossessed landowners who will never realize the return of their ancestral lands. In fiscal year 2021, the Commission became financially independent from the general fund. The 35th Guam Legislature appropriated $408,553 from the Commission Survey, Infrastructure, and Development Fund. However, based on the annual receipts of all lease proceeds of Opera Harbor Reservations F12 and partial N14-1, these are the Polaris Point partials, that are needed to sustain the budget appropriation, the Bureau of Budget and Management Research limited the Commission's budget allotment to $290,559. Needless to say, fulfilling the Commission's mandates and keeping our doors open in FY21 was a challenge. In fiscal year 2022, the Commission again continues to be financially independent from the general fund, with a budget appropriation again of $408,553 from its SID account. This time, however, the 36th Guam Legislature exempted the Commission from BBMR's allotment release control. This allowed the Commission to draw against its full FY 2022 budget appropriation in accordance with a drawdown schedule submitted to the Department of Administration. As a result, the Commissioner was able to pay off all outstanding personnel services obligations, procure most of its budgeted supplies and equipment for the year, and fill the one authorized land agent position on a limited term appointment. While the Commission's FY22 budget appropriation allows the Commission to operate as an independent agency, the budget allows the Commission to operate at the most basic levels, with minimal flexibility to address two important concerns: the preservation of historical documents and the prevention of the loss of institutional knowledge. In April 2021, the Commission moved to its permanent office on the third floor of the ITC building in Tamuning. This allowed the Commission better access to historical documents that filled 32 four-drawer file cabinets. These historical documents were temporarily stored in the Department of Land Management's vault. The deplorable condition of these documents was discovered during the Commission's examination of the documents as they were moved to its new office. Some of these documents are replaceable, some are not. Probate records can be retrieved from the courts. John Bond land settlement records may be found at the Micronesian Area Research Center at the University of Guam, but other records like communication records between the clients and their attorneys or recording sessions that produce quitclaim deeds may not be easily recovered, if at all. Some of the documents were nearly destroyed, with fist-sized holes having been carved out of them. Others were salvageable, but still significantly damaged by termites. We also discovered recordings stored on cassette tapes that are brittle from age. We prioritized the preservation of these files and recordings and set aside one day each week to repair and digitize them. These documents and recordings are important. Copies are often requested by title companies, attorneys, and individuals who are doing research on returned properties. To address the issue of the preservation of these historical documents, the Commission applied for and was recently awarded a $185,301 Technical Assistance Program grant, that's a TAP grant, from the Office of Insular Affairs for our Information Technology Infrastructure Upgrade and Modernization Project. Funds from the TAP grant will be used to digitize and maintain historic land taking and compensation files, maps, and other pertinent documents received from original landowners and or their heirs, ultimately improving service to the general public or other government agencies and the private sector. The grant award period is June 1, 2022 through September 30, 2025. Another concern is the possibility of losing institutional knowledge. Should the two unclassified employees, along with the limited term Land Agent 1, be replaced, and the one classified Land Agent 2, who will qualify for retirement in approximately a year, decide to retire. This is a very real issue that needs to be addressed. The loss of experience-based knowledge that an employee accumulates over time is very difficult to replace. A new employee may be able to perform the essential duties of the person they are replacing, but without personal mentoring, they have no way to replicate their predecessors' relationships, ideas, or approaches to work. The impact of losing this knowledge will slow productivity and may cause frustration and miscommunication between the employees and the clientele they serve. We would like to prevent this from happening by hiring at least 2 more classified land agents. These concerns are addressed in the Commission's FY23 budget request for $498,722, $408,553 to be funded from the Ancestral Lands SID account, and $90,169 to be funded by the General Fund, as you recommended during a public hearing on Bill number 225-36 COR, which was introduced by Senators Tello Taitigui, Duran Brown, Sabina Paris, Frank Blas, yourself, and Speaker Therese Talahi. Bill number 225-36 COR proposed to appropriate $90,169.40 from the General Fund, that is Fund 309, the Hagåtña fractional lots, to the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission, augmenting operational capacity to administer ancestral property rights claims for excess lands returned by the federal government. The funds were to be used to hire 2 land agents and to purchase necessary equipment to preserve important public documents. On behalf of the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission, thank you and your committee for this opportunity to testify, and we request your favorable support of the Commission's FY23 budget request. Sizusmaasi.
Thank you, Mr. Birch. I'd just like to make sure it's so recognized that the 90,169 would basically come from general fund, and then the rest, the 408, will come from your special fund, your survey, infrastructure, and development fund.
Yes.
Okay, so, and that will actually ensure that you're able to do what you need to do to maintain continuity and hopefully build institutional knowledge with your unclassified employees, correct?
Correct.
All right, sir, I have no other further question for this. I mean, I'm in support of this. I'll ask Senator Parrish if she has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, Mr. Birch and Mrs. Bloss. Yeah, just a question about, in your testimony, you were saying that $290,000 in the 35th Guam legislature was withheld from your budget. And so in the subsequent budget year, you were granted in the budget bill a release of the allotment control. Is this something that you would like to continue with this budget bill?
Yes, Senator. What BBMR tends to do, they look at what sustained income we can have, we will get from the properties that we lease, where these funds, the lease proceeds that are generated, are placed into the SID account. All our other leases, all the lease proceeds are placed in what we call the land bank, which we hold in trust, that one day, hopefully we'll get down here soon to you an amendment to our Enabling Act, so we can once and for all create the rules and regulations so we could dispense those funds to the beneficiaries. So we're only allowed properties from the Polaris Point area that goes into the SID account. And because of that, the lease proceeds, they account for just under $300,000 a year. Currently, we're in negotiations for 13 more acres of that. We're still in negotiations. We're not yet complete with the negotiations, so I'm not at liberty to disclose everything. But I hope to make another $80,000 annually from that to go into the SID account. So we are working on it, and I could understand why BBMR held that back. They did not understand how much funds we have in our SID account. Today, we have over $500,000 in the SID account and over $15 million in the land bank. So we have quite a bit of funds out there. We're just not allowed to access them. We're only allowed to touch what's in the SID account. So we have at least $549,299 in the SID account today. So would that be sufficient? The answer is yes. We have an arrangement with the Department of Administration that we will use the DOA funds throughout the year, and then at the end of the fiscal year, in one lump sum, we will pay back all of that. And that's what we do. So at the end of this fiscal year, I would have to transfer to DOA $490,000, but we, in expectation of what we will accumulate over the next fiscal year, we will have enough funds in the SID account for operations.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. And the other thing that's of concern for this agency and many agencies is the loss of institutional knowledge when it comes to retiring employees. And especially with land, it's such a complicated topic. And I don't know of any curriculum that can train somebody sufficiently to be able to do what they do right now without the experience. And so, we had Department of Land Management here in a budget hearing before, and they also had difficulty in basically hiring surveyors, but they were able to put together a curriculum in partnership with GCC to be able to actually train them and eventually hire them. Have you been in talks with Director Borja to hopefully replicate a model for ancestral lands, considering that you were once housed within the same agency? Yes,
we were once a division within our agency, and it was during this time period that this was since the year of 2012. Actually, The move started in 2011. It didn't complete itself to 2012. And with that, what happened to ancestral lands was it was put to the back corner, and that's why a lot of our records, and if you go through the files like I have, you find it was a period of no activity or very little activity with ancestral lands. But today you see that we've been moving forward. Since 2018, just last week, I went out last week, in July 13, we had our first title hearing where we will be again returning 5 acres to the original landowners or their heirs. We're in the process of doing that. We should have an ad out very soon. And if there's no objections, then we'll sign over the property to the original owners. But that was a long time with no action. Plus, in 2017, we sent our rules and regulations to the Attorney General's office, hoping they would approve it and send it down here to the legislature for approval so that we could start paying the beneficiaries. But for various reasons, those rules and regs were rejected by the Attorney General's office. And part of the rejection was that our Enabling Act needs to be fixed a little bit or tweaked or amended. And we're in the process of that. As of last week, I met with attorneys from the governor's office and we're working on it. We've worked with Department of Land Management and also with GITA and of course Ancestral Lands to put this document together. We want to get it right once and for all because this law has been in place since 1999, and through all this period of time we have been unable to get the rules and regulations out. But according to the AG's office, we have to fix the law, or the Enabling Act for ancestral lands before we can do anything else. And that's what we've been working on the side. And of course, to get all of this done and save our records, we also had to go through and look outside the box and look towards accessing federal funds. You know, it's been difficult. We have a very small staff, and be honest with you, with the institutional knowledge, you know, when we got in there, it was basically we had 1 employee left and two commissioners. When I showed up and I brought Kathy Bloss in with me a month later, now we have 5 employees and we have a full-fledged board of 7 commissioners. And now we have our own office. When we walked in, people used to ask me, whose office is this? I said, if I'm sitting behind the desk, it's the director's office. If Kathy's sitting there, it's the admin officer's office. We had 1 desk, 1 computer, and that was about it, nothing else. Well, today we have a real office, and we do have some people, but we only have 1 classified employee because I had to bring people in that had the expertise. And so I have a great team working there, and they go way above their duties. They work outside of it. They never complain to me about, oh, sir, this is beyond the scope of my responsibilities. They get the job done. And I really appreciate the employees that I have. And I don't want to lose the knowledge that we've gained and what we put together. And especially with our classified employee, Joey Leon Guerrero, who's been there the longest, he's been extremely helpful by educating the rest of us on the land issues. But he's up for retirement. And the rest of us, well, we either are unclassified or limited term appointed. And so there's a high probability we could all be replaced within a year and this will all be lost. So that's why that's a big deal with me, is saving that, passing that on to someone else so that we don't lose this. It's too important. Now that we're up in the limelight, that people see that we're working, we're getting our things done again, and we're not forgotten, we're not put in the back burner somewhere, you know, as a forgotten division of any agency, that we are moving forward. These people whose properties were taken away from them since 1950, actually since 1947 when they're taken as leases, and then when they made as U.S. citizens, then they actually went out through eminent domain and condemned their property. They've been waiting that long. And finally, they're reaching out to us and they're speaking. Of course, it's controversial. Of course, it's sensitive. But we're doing our best to try to get their properties back to them. I just don't want to lose the knowledge that we've gained over this period of time. So that's why I'm asking at least 2 more land agents, classified land agents, that will stay with the agency so that this knowledge could be carried on and on. You know, and that's the big thing. We've got the federal funds to take care of the digitizing and the preservation of our documents, and I'm very happy with that. So we don't have to use local monies, but like I said, we've been looking outside the box We do not have any grant writers with us, but we sit down as a team and we work things out, and things get done. So at least that's what I can say. We get the job done one way or the other.
Yes, thank you. And I do hope that you also collaborate with the partners such as Department of Land Management and GCC to hopefully get some qualified staff to become land agents. Yeah, and I oversee labor, so this is a plug for those out in the community that are interested in land issues and, you know, want to take up the reins of this very important, you know, you're being stewards of the land. I think this is a really critical position.
It is.
I think, so I'm also look forward to the finalization of the rules and regs for the land bank. I think that's really critical.
It is.
There's still those survivors from the land takings. I think it will mean a lot to them to be able to receive those funds.
Yes,
So-
and I hope to soon have the amendment, the proposed amendment, you know, so that we could get this through the Attorney General's office. That was one of the stumbling blocks that we had to deal with.
And in regards to actually the money that was withheld back in the 35th, is there any move to restore those funds?
Well, Senator, the funds that Ancestral Lands has are not taxpayer funds. They are private funds that we collect that are not placed in the Department of Administration. They're placed in Coast 360. So the funds were never lost to us into the general fund. We were just not allowed to access it, although we do have it. So Ancestral Lands in general is not short of funding. We are just limited to what we are able to access. And that's what's in our SID account. We're not allowed to access any of the other funding sources, although we do have over $15 million in the bank. We can't touch that because we're holding that in trust. Only those that are collected from specific properties at Polaris Point that we're allowed to use those monies. So since we arrived there, I've not had access to any general fund monies. And so we had to be extremely frugal and figure out how to get the office operating and get the office stood up again. Because when I walked in and I asked where Ancestral Lands was, no one could give me the answer because there was no office, there was no desk, no vehicle. The records, we had a hard time finding them, but once we did, we took possession of them real quick. And now our job is to preserve them. So we did not lose any money. In fact, according to Deloitte & Touche last year, with the efforts we made, we're able to increase our revenues by 45%, our income revenues for the year. So we've been very good at that, and I hope to do better this year now that we have engaged with GITA to become our investment, to provide us investment services so they can make more out of our investments. And so we plan to be moving forward on this. So no funds were ever lost, so we do have the money in the bank.
Okay, just maybe one more question. So thank you for that clarification, first of all. So what is the contractual arrangement with GITA as far as financial consultation?
Okay, for the next 2 or 3 years, they're going to teach us how to, first, to develop an investment portfolio and a policy statement so that they can guide us into what kind of projects will be most beneficial to the agency so that any funds that we have in the land bank will grow and will grow quicker than what we have today. Today, the way the banks are set up, we're starting to recover. Interest rates, even in certificates of deposit, are way below 1%. And when I looked at what GITA was earning on the average, they're earning over 8% a year. So they're willing to charge us 0.75% for their services. And even if I paid a 0.75% per year, I'll still be clearing over 6%. And that's a whole lot better than 0.5% or anything less than 1%. So I expect that to increase. So they're providing us with management services, and they will provide us with the training. So the MOU we've established with them is expected to go for 3 years while we go through that. Right now, I have a limited amount of staff. We have 2 of them who are still in training. We picked them up from the Department of Labor from the Citizens Employment Program, CSEP. And the other one is, of course, Kathy, myself, and Joey Lunguero, who's our land agent. He's outside. We make up the majority of our staff. So we don't have anyone who can or anyone full-time we can assign to handle the investments. So we outsource it, and by outsourcing, we're able to increase our funding. Just like we have outsourced our property management services again to GITA. And some people think that we may be paying them too much, but we've had some lawsuits in the past, and the MOU we have with GITA, they take care of all legal services. So when we had the issue of recovering property and funds from Wesco, GITA picked up the brunt of, and in fact, not the brunt, 100% of all legal costs. So in short, that saved us a lot of money. So GITA has been very helpful to us, and I expect that to grow even further so that we can grow the funds in the land bank.
Thank you so much, Administrator Birch and Mrs. Bloss, for your presentation today. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Pierce. And Mr. Birch, I'd just like to advise you, I support the 90,000 you're asking for in general fund and the unrestricted access for the allotment. What happened in 22, we're going to continue that in the budget process to make sure you can access what you need. And then when you come up with whatever program you're looking at to figure out a way how you can access the other funds, just write it up, make a draft, send it to your oversight, or even send it to my office, and we'll figure out a way how to help you. Because if you can get the biggest bang from the dollar, then get the biggest bang. It's for the ancestral folks. It's the landowners. And if you can start paying them, you know, we can start making the money, make use of the money and be the benefit to the original landowners. And then it can be an investment, it's a benefit for them long term. It becomes I would say it would be a real business adventure for them. Because getting land today is great, but if you sell it tomorrow, it's gone.
Yes.
Versus if the Ancestral Land Commission makes it a business venture, they'll maintain that income for one to whenever. And that's normally the best way to go nowadays. All right, so with that, the committee will conclude this budget hearing. The committee will continue to receive testimony. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Augustin at gmail.com or to my office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, 761 South Marine Corps Drive. Zeus Masi for your attendance today, Mr. Birch and Ms. Bloss, and participating in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. The budget hearing on Bill 276, that's 36 CR relative to Guam Ancestral Land Commission, is duly heard and is now adjourned. It is 2:28. Please have a nice day and be safe. Thank you, sir.